As with anything, there's multiple ways to do all kinds of things in any program, so the way I do it isn't necessarily the only way or even the best way. There's a million things that you can do. What we're going to be doing is taking a model that I've prepared right here, and we're going to do some hard surface techniques on this so I can break down exactly how that works, and then there's another method that I'll show as well. Looking at this guy, you can tell he's really rough. There's nothing special going on about him. And let me go ahead and throw a different material on top of him here. You can see the resolution's really low on this guy. You don't need anything super high for the technique that I'm about to do here. What we're going to do is we're actually going to essentially do a retopology on the parts that we want to be hard surface, and you don't need crazy detail for that sort of stuff. So I'm going to do a couple hard surface pieces there and kind of show you what I'm talking about. The first thing we're going to need to do after you've sculpted the piece that's going to be your hard surface base, I guess, is you're going to need to switch to a Z sphere. So in your tool box over here, you choose the icon, and then you're going to go over to Z sphere. Now you're going to need to go down to rigging. So some of these things may be open. All you got to do is collapse them, just tap the actual title, and you're going to want to go down to rigging, and you're going to go select mesh. When you select that, you can see that our model is right here. Add that. And it's going to show up ghosted, all weird looking right here. You've done it right if this is what you got. So after you've done that, you're going to go to Topology and click Edit Topology. Now you've got this your brush. It's kind of changed color a bit. For me, because this is symmetrical, I'm going to choose Activate Symmetry. You can do this with any shape. It doesn't have to be a helmet or an organic shape. You can do any rough sort of mechanical shapes, anything you want. It's just, think of it as like sculpting a rough shape with clay. Now, for some of these things, I would recommend going into a 3D packager like Maya or 3D Studio Max and modeling out hard surfaces and then bringing them into Maya to scuff them up. But sometimes you've got things like this where you just want a few hard surface pieces, or maybe you want to do the whole thing in here because it's mostly organic with just like a faceplate or something like that. So I have Symmetry turned on here, and if I click right now, you can see I'm making these orange lines. If I tap around and then tap on the last point, that's actually making a polygon right there. So I'm going to go ahead and undo it. Good. And now if I go to center, it should snap green. There we go. So what you're going to do is go over your piece. And we're going to do this real quick, but you can do this with higher resolution, take more time, whatever you want to do. It can be a little tedious, which is why the method isn't the favorite of some, but it is a pretty common method. And again, some of this stuff you can just model real fast out in Maya or Max, and so it's kind of up to you which way you want to do it. But all you're going to do, you need to move and rotate each time you click a point. You just create your overall shapes, and you want to keep attaching them to the points that you're building. You can see if I select a point, oh no. If I zoom in here, you can see I have a point right here that highlights them when you go over them. So I select that guy. Actually, I'm going to build out another quad there. So that. And don't worry about this looking messy. We're actually going to fix that. I can go to the Move tool, and I can move any point that I've built. And this all forms to the model, so you don't have to worry too much about actually being right along it, because it does it for you. And you can go right back to draw and do the exact same thing again. So I'm going to click around, add a couple more. And this is a method that I actually have a sweet reference picture on my Pinterest for it. I can share that too. I can put all this in the description of the YouTube video. And this will also be available, obviously, on the Twitch recordings. So if I'm going too fast, don't worry about it. You'll be able to view it over and over and over again, because I know you're going to want to hear my sweet buttery voice constantly. So we'll say this is enough for now. You guys kind of get the idea. Clicking around. I'm going to make it not too fugly. Also, if it's at the center line and you have symmetry on, it'll move up and down it, but you can't drag it off of that center line, so you can't accidentally undo your symmetry. And now, I'm going to do the front of it. And you can be as quick or as not quick as you want. I'm just doing this quick here for time's sake because like I said, the process is the same regardless of what you're doing with it. So no real need for me to kill myself over being meticulous here. You get the idea. Generating a mesh, creating a low poly version for it. And you can actually, this is also a method that I use sometimes, not all the time, for retopologizing, because you can also create a model with this and then you can export it, you can unwrap it. It's another way to do low poly if you don't want to leave ZBrush. But the reason we're doing this is, you see in a moment, it's going to give us nice clean edges to work with and smooth and make cool hard edges off of. So let me go ahead and move that. So let's call this our super sexy done piece that we want to make. Maybe the rest of this is going to be organic and we just want this faceplate to be hard surface. So now that we've done that, we go to adaptive skin. You want to make sure your density is set to 1. It's default set to 2, and you click preview. That's going to show you what your mesh, your low poly, is going to look like. And I can see that I've messed up a little bit here up at the top. Got some fugliness going on there. So since it's just a preview, I just untick preview, go back to topology, edit topology, and you can see I've actually got a point right there. So I can delete that by holding Alt, and I can rebuild it. And then preview again. Adaptive skin, preview. Now it's all cleaned up. Awesome. So I'm done with this. Make adaptive skin, same panel. Click that. Now you can see it poofed up here into our toolbox. It's appeared here, so I can select that. And there's going to be 2 here. It's going to be deceiving. You're still on the Azz Sphere version. It's actually called Azz Sphere 1 right here. You can see the name. You want your skin Azz Sphere 1. That's the version that you just made. That's low poly. Now I've got this guy. If I go to my wireframe, you can see it's all the same poly group, which means it's all the same color. I actually want to divide this into different poly groups. So I'm going to go to poly groups. I'm going to go to auto groups. Who knows what's going to happen? Does the same thing. Gross. You could do, where's my group mask, group from polypaint. Nah, screw it. We'll do it the normal way. All right, so I could make certain ones invisible. Choose, let's see, go ahead and do lasso. So what I'm doing is holding Control and Shift, and that's giving me the selection tool. And I'm making certain things visible. And I can turn symmetry back on, and it'll work for the whole model. So I can do that, or I can hold Alt, and I can remove certain parts. And that's actually what I'm going to be doing. You'll see why we're doing that in 2 seconds. So we'll go around. Again, this is a little quick and messy, but you'll get the idea. We're removing the parts of our model. What I'm doing is I'm moving along the edge that I want to make hard, basically. So I want this edge right here to be a sharp edge. So keeping that in mind, I'm removing the parts that I don't want to do that with. We'll do it again in a second with the rest of this. But for now, we're going to do that. I can say group visible. It's made it its own polygroup now. So if I click and drag and undo that, sorry, tap, you can see now it's a separate one. The other thing I can do is click and drag and it'll reverse it. And now I can once again remove these. So what we're doing is we're kind of stepping through the things that we want to be their own hard surfaces, and making them their own one by one. You can also mask and do it that way. There's a number of ways to do this. This is just the way that I'm choosing to do it right now for this. So we're almost there. You can see I've made this edge its own polygroup, the bottom edge its own polygroup, and what I'd like to do now is make the top plate here its own polygroup. So I'm going to make that invisible too. Group visible. Again, it's its own. And I think I actually want this edge to be hard too, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. There you go. Group visible. Don't worry, this all makes sense in a second. So I have a bunch of mask pieces here. I actually don't want that to be hard, but whatever, for this you'll get it. We've separated things into polygroups along the edges that I want to be a sharp edge. And now I go to crease, so you want to go geometry, you're going to go to crease. Where is it? Crease all, crease PG, there we go. Sorry, there's a lot of buttons in here. So you're going to geometry, you're going to go under crease, crease PG, and that's crease by polygroup border. So I do that, you see these dotted lines show up. So it's creating a crease edge. That's telling Zbrush that I want that to be a hard edge. So now, turn this off so you can see, if I divide to smooth it out, add more geo, it keeps those edges solid while the rest starts to smooth out. So I can do that a bunch of times. And now I've created a hard surface object that has really nice, smooth, sharp lines without doing any actual sculpting. Because you could be sculpting this forever and getting something kind of wobbly and bubbly and gross, but instead we've got nice sharp lines to work with. So if I keep that guy, let's see if I've got my head here anywhere. I should be able to just insert it. Come here, you. And I'd have to edit this guy out a bit. For now, I'll sculpt it away so you can see what's going on. So I've added this as a subtool. And you can see that it's in the same place that my sculpture is, the work that I had been doing. And there's cleaner way to do this, but I'm giving you the idea. So now I have a nice hard faceplate on top of this guy. And now I can go back to go away, no one cares what you have to say. Gross. Fat fingering things again. There. So now I could just continue sculpting and doing whatever details I wanted to do for the organic part of my model, and I have this faceplate. I could do the same thing for this chin piece right here. I could do the same thing for like a neck cuff, stuff like that. So that's the core way that I do hard surface stuff if I'm looking to do just like a piece of armor on something, or plates on things, just smaller parts. So there's one version. Gosh, I know you're not winning stuff. You know this. The other thing I wanted to show real quick, in addition to this, is a way to make little pieces if you want to do some some little bits and bobs to hang on stuff. It doesn't always work, but it is a method that I use to quickly hammer some things out. For now, I'm going to make basically like a metal loop or pin that you would put on maybe like a gun for a sling or something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and just load up a cylinder so you can see what I'm doing. It doesn't have to be a cylinder, but it will illustrate what's happening. So we're going to use what's called a shadow box. So you want to make Polymesh 3D after you make your cylinder. and here you go down to shadow box. And I'm gonna make it 256 resolution for this. So next resolution, you can put in 256, press shadow box. And this weird thing's gonna happen. You have this weird box and your cylinder is gonna look strange. So what's happened is everything's masked out right now. We actually don't want the cylinder here. This is just how you get to shadow box. So if I clear the mask, right now there's a mask that's giving all this information. You can see I have a mask that's a cylinder shape down here, and it's solid here and solid here. I'll show you what's going on. So if you clear your mask, which is just tap, or sorry, that's invert, tap and drag, I've got this sort of 3-wall thing going on here. What's happening is it's taking a mask. If I go back to mask mode here, which is control, paint a mask, I have this tube that's shooting out into nothing. So that's cool. If I do it over here, they're gone. That's weird. What happens is anywhere the masks intersect, so I'm going to add one in the same spot, it creates geo. So if I do another one, there's a slash right there, I've got this weird blobby thing going on. So I could freehand shape and say I want a loop. Awesome, I've got a ring, and now I can turn off shadow box and sculpt that. Great, I could do that. All you do to get out of shadow box is press shadow box again, and it's created it. So go back in and clear the mask out. Oops, no I'm not, there we go. But what you could do, and the way that I'm going to show you right now, is you could go into a program like Photoshop and you can make some cool masks. And I'm going to load those alphas right now. So I'm just going to go to wherever I did it. Where did I do it? Okay, so I've got a pin and a ring right here. And this is a method that I saw elsewhere. Can't take credit for it. It's by any means it's fairly common knowledge. And I'm going to go to the masking tool, which is going to be using control. So I'm going to want to choose that mask. So if you go to your brush, pressing B, and you press M, that's going to filter out anything that has an M in the name. So I'll go to masking, and I want mask rectangle. You choose that. And it'll only happen when I hold control, because that's the mask key. So if I press control, now you can see I have the rectangle tool up. And I can choose my alphas. What I'm going to do is, where it says rectangle, I'm going to tap that. I'm going to press square. I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to press center. I want both of those turned on. So turn them both on. I'm going to choose my alpha. I want the ring right here. Now, the way it works is you can see the white shows up as where the brush is, or where your geo is, and the black is nothing. So you can see I've got this weird thing. That's not what I want. If I have that issue, I don't got to go back into Photoshop or anything. I can just choose it, hit inverse, and now I have what I need. If I choose the right one when I go to mask. There we go. So now I can create that, and you see I've made this U shape thing. So real quick, I'm going to show you. If you hold control and you drag it out, while you're dragging, if you press and hold spacebar, you can move your mask around wherever you want. And if you let go of spacebar while still holding control, you can go back to resizing it. So I'm going to go ahead and place that real quick. There we go. So now I've got my basic shape here. Now it seems weird, but remember, where masks intersect is where you're going to have geo, not anywhere else. So I'm actually going to go to the view where I can see my geo, because I need to see it, because I'm not going to see it if I go over to this wall. And I'm holding shift to kind of snap into place. So I'm going to go back to the same mode. I'm going to choose my pin here that I made. I need to invert it real quick. And I'm going to drag it out, hold spacebar, move it, let go of spacebar, move it again, let go. Now I've got that clip that I'm talking about. I have this little ring here that maybe this this part on the top here could connect to could connect to the stock of the rifle, and then the actual fabric could loop through here. You know, obviously you can make these different shapes. So I can close out a shadow box. Some people will smooth this up by doing clay polish, and you can totally do that. See, it doesn't look too bad. In this scenario, sometimes I'll do a Z remesh. So go into Geometry Z remesher and just Z-remove. Hopefully I won't crash. I'll be right back if I do. But it should be fine. I think my computer's good enough for this. I'm good for it, I swear. So now, if I go to my wireframe, you can see it's retopologized this into something a little bit closer to what you might make yourself, you know? I only do that because that can sometimes give a little bit better results for doing your polishes and things like that. So now I've got this pin here. I could divide it again, or I could do clay polish again. It starts to get a little weird around the edges, but see, I can also do like a clip, not like that. Go Control Shift, and then we're going to choose the clip rectangle. Oops. And that'll remove anything else. Oh, we got some nice ugly grossness going on here. So you might need to do some model cleanup in order to make that work. But you can clip off edges and sort of make things a little bit smoother. But anyway, that is the short version of doing hard surface in ZBrush, the two methods that I've really adopted. There are other things you can do that I also do from time to time, where you mask out a part of your model and you extract it, and you can do like different trims and things on it. But for the sake of doing something with very sharp, precise lines, I do the retopology method that I showed you guys, and I wanted to give you guys in this short period of time the version that yields the best results for me.